How beautiful to have you here and to be here with you.
Amazing to join this conversation about expression, because I feel like that's the common point here between you and me. It's that expression, our fullness through many different gifts. So thank you for the invite.
Oh, it's beautiful. So just the first introduction. So I'm a somatic therapist for those that don't know. And I guide in self-love and sensual shadow work. And what about you having a little presentation of yourself?
So my name is Riya. I'm a light language and starseed activator, and my whole work reconnects people with the higher self, and I do it through the light language activation, through my work as a quantum business strategist, because I feel like very often our expression in the world, in the marketplace, is a direct reflection of who we are on the inside. And many of the blocks that come up for my clients in the business come actually from this self-love expression block somewhere more general that have nothing to do with business often.
No, beautiful. I have not attended any of your business lives, but I know I just asked for the link, so I'm excited about the next one. I have, however, attended several of your light language activations, and they've been amazing. So I'm extra excited for myself to be here chatting with you live.
Amazing. So good. Divinely guided.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing it to my channels as well. So yeah, hopefully more people will join in soon as well.
So why don't you start with telling what is light language?
Okay, well, this is that mysterious thing that for a number of years people were sprinkling like a fairy dust on top of a guided meditation. And it's one of them mystical modalities that for a long time we didn't know what to do with as humanity. And light language, in essence, is expression of energy in the form of sound, movement, writing. I specialize in the sound side of things, but basically, light language is nothing else but expressing a certain energy. Well, and the next question is where that energy comes from. It can come from different sources. That's why it's not just one thing, the light language. It's actually like an umbrella term encompassing many different phenomena. So you can express the energy of the land. You can connect to the land and express energy of specific region or grid work. I've channeled land here in Costa Rica. I've channeled land in Australia. I've channeled land in Europe. Europe's sound was very, very, very weak because I feel like there hasn't been an indigenous culture that was cultivating this song of the land. So that's one part of light language. Then you've got all the galactic languages of different non-physical beings from other dimensions and other realms that some of us have been those beings in one of our previous lives. So you've got all your languages like Arcturian, etc., or Pleiadian or Syrian, and I speak many of them. But then there is one language that I feel like is probably the most relevant for all of your people here on live, and that's the language of your soul. The soul language, which is the pure expression of our unique essence. And this language usually is the one which is the most difficult to activate. Because when I am working as a light language activator, I activate people's light languages by bringing the energy, by intention, and usually, like when it comes to galactic languages or, you know, the starseed languages, they all come easy like that. In order to activate your soul language, that takes some deep, deep shadow work, which is exactly what you do, and stripping layers back. And at some point, it emerges. It emerged for me as light language number 12 after I've had many different ones activated. So that's in essence what a light language is.
It's a big topic.
Yeah.
Let me first see if I can bring the sound up a little bit here. Let's see. Can I on the mid there, all the way up? Okay, there we go. Well, where do you have anything you want to ask me, or anywhere you want to kick off? Is there something you see where we have different paths or have opposite viewpoints or something like that?
What I feel like what I want to talk about is that side of self-love. And I know you're doing a great job in the realm of people's bodies and accepting our physical essence. And I feel like it's a very, very important aspect of that journey to self-love, to the expression in our body, feeling good about our body, literally letting go of shame. But I want to talk about a different aspect of self-love, which for my journey was essential, because I haven't had so much trauma around my sexuality, my body. I've had quite a happy upbringing, happy relationship, and that has not been my area of growth. But where there are other areas where we experience shame, is things that may not have anything to do with our body. There's things where I've experienced that in my business, when my business failed. It could be personal failures, it could be relationship failures. And this is where we also need to find that self-love, because when we think of self-love, we naturally think about a body and maybe, you know, going on a spa retreat or something like that. That's like, oh yeah, let's do something nice for ourselves. But for me, integrating all the pieces of myself was actually that kind of like a radical self-forgiveness for all my mistakes, radical forgiveness for others who maybe shamed me, who hated on me, or who had expectations. And that kind of work is also a part of that shadow work, which may sometimes not be connected directly to the body, but which always will be reflected in the body. Any kind of trauma that we go through, that body remembers. But I just wanted to really say that sometimes that shadow work that we go through, it feels like there's no end to it. It feels like it just keeps going and going and going, and it's like, what's the point? And we sometimes doubt. And I've gone through a very intense process over the last couple of years of shadow work. I was clearing ancestral patterns, trauma, karma, all sorts of things from past lives, from this life, from childhood, you name it. You know the work. But what felt when I was going in that, it was like a washing machine on a cycle, where it's like, you know, going, spinning, and okay, maybe the water gets a bit less dirty, but it's like, when is that spin gonna stop? And actually for me, there was a natural end of the cycle. So it doesn't mean that, yeah, I'm now ascended, enlightened, and I have no work left to do. But it kind of got to a point where I reconnected with my higher self, because it felt like all these layers have been separating me from that highest expression. And when I did, how it connects to light language was the light language of the soul emerged for me. Literally, I did another session of clearing, another issue came up, another trigger came up, I've cleared it, and the following day I woke up with a new language. And that was the language of my soul. So this is something I wanted to share for those of you who feel like maybe, oh my God, where's the end of that shadow work? It does get easier. It does get easier.
It does get much easier. And for me, thank you for what you're sharing, by the way. It's beautiful and gives me also so much inspiration. And for me, self-love is not self-care. Well, it does include self-care. But for me, it's about connection really to my authentic self. And that is my divine self. So it makes perfect sense. And for me, it feels like the divine self is connected in my body. Like it speaks directly to my body. Whereas my mind is more the processing of what's happening in my body. So for me, it was a turning point when I channeled light language. And it hasn't been an important piece for me, but I know it's coming more and more in. And again, why I thought of contacting you and why I was attending your classes. And I don't think necessarily that's the path for everyone. I have to say that. I think for some it's more important. I do think that. And I think it depends a little bit of what a soul purpose is. And I think the more maybe transpersonal it is, maybe the more the connection to a light language is there. I don't know if you've ever thought about that.
You know, I feel like we all have unique senses that connect us to the spiritual world. For me, when actually, like, I've, if you looked aurically and if you looked like with your third eye at my chakra system, it's almost like my channel from my third eye, it actually doesn't even go, or from my crown, doesn't even go through my third eye so much as it goes through my ears and mouth. It's almost like, so I did get no visuals. So that is my gift. I bring this spiritual realm through the power of sound. But not everybody, like you say, it's not everybody's journey. Like my husband's journey, for example, is all visual. He sees things and he shares things that he sees. For other people, that same journey will be through plant medicine, which, for example, is completely not my journey. I totally kind of, I've tried, but it's completely not my thing. Apologies, I've got some dogs barking outside.
You're just agreeing.
Hang on. Aaron, can you do something with the dogs? Awesome. Yeah, in Costa Rica, just so you know, dogs just roam free. So we've got visitors from the neighbors. There's no like something like a dog is locked in a backyard.
Yeah.
No, dogs just roam free. They just come and go. So yeah.
Long as in Mexico, there's dogs and roosters and someone yelling or building all the time. So
Yeah, so that's Costa Rica. But where I was going with this, yeah, light language, I wouldn't say it's for everyone, but what can happen? It can happen to anyone. So that's something where my work comes to play, because very often I find people, yes, there are some people who intentionally, they really want to reconnect with that energy of the soul family. They come to me, they want to be activated. So I activate them and then I kind of take them to the next steps of the journey. But
before we continue, can you tell me how are they coming to you? Like, how does it show up in your life?
Okay, great question. So I explain how it happens to me, because it has happened over 20 times now. I've activated so many. It always happens in the same way. And also I will talk you through how I activate other people. So basically, it's really weird to explain how it happens on the inside. But for me, every language, apart from that soul language, the way it happened was myself and Aaron, or sometimes just on my own, we were connecting to various galactic races of beings. And I've got some like cat and dog battle, I think, outside. Anyway, we're connecting to various races of galactic beings. And what happened was, it feels like a download. It feels like there's incoming information that needs to be expressed through the sound. And usually Aaron was getting all the visuals, information about the society. I was straight away getting the language. And it just felt like, okay, it's coming in. I just need to open my mouth and let it go. So one of the very common misconceptions about light language is that something takes over, that you go into some sort of trance, and that it will be like someone will be forcing your mouth. No, it doesn't happen like that. I compare it to like a tap, where you know there's water in the tap, but you still need to turn it on. So there's water coming in. When you turn the tap on, it comes, and then when you're ready, you can turn the tap off. So that's how it happens. When it happens naturally and spontaneously, like it did for me. When I take people through the activation, I do it in a slightly different way, because I do it in more like a controlled or semi-controlled environment, because it's never controlled, there's always flow. So what I would do is I would bring various galactic energies in an activation, and one by one I will speak the languages, and I'll call those starseeds, and I'll call their memories, and I will have the intention to activate them, and they will have the intention to receive them. And it always happens, and very many people activate more than one light language in one go. So that's kind of how it happens.
For me personally, it was through my hands, and no, actually it was through my feet in the beginning.
Okay.
I have a pretty huge block. Used to have a huge block in my throat chakra. It still
Uh-huh.
struggles at time to kind of express. And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, it came up through my feet.
Yeah, you know what? This is very common. I find it very often. I've had many students who first activate through the body, and then the sound comes after some blocks of the throat are removed. So I've had a lot of examples like you where first it activates through the body because somehow it is more acceptable in our society. So our conscious mind doesn't put blocks like, oh, what am I going to sound like? It's weird. What the heck? I'm possessed or whatever else. Because you feel like, oh, it's like a dance. Oh, it's just like, moving your hands. That's okay. So that is definitely a way for many languages.
Yeah. And as I'm saying it, I'm also curious, in human design, do you remember if your throat chakra is defined or not?
What do you think?
I think it's defined.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's absolutely it is defined. Wouldn't be any other way for me.
Yeah, and is 61 or 62 part of your main energies?
I'm not, no. I'm actually I've got this kind of doom 3-5.
I mean more in the have you opened up your gene keys?
Yes, I mean I've studied it, but I can't remember off the top of my head what my gene keys are. I'm contemplating. I think there's the ones that I've really contemplated was 15 and 25th hexagram, but there is like I could pull my chart up, but yeah, definitely my throat is defined 100%.
Yeah. No, because there's actually a gene key that's called light language.
Really, I haven't actually come across that one, so I don't think I've got it. But there is some other thing which was about listening, which I've got. Yeah.
And you got your anja. Is that defined or not?
The third eye. No, it's not.
So I'm just curious. I'm a typical projector. I'm very into systems.
Uh-huh.
Well,
yeah, I'm just literally pulling my chart up here. Let me just, yeah, so my crown is not defined, and neither is my third eye, but then everything else, throat, heart, all the other things apart from solar plexus and apart from root. So I'm half defined, half not. But they also all connected. I'm like single definition. So all my energy centers speak in one voice. So when I'm getting intuition, it's not like, this part says something different. All speaks in one voice.
Yeah, no, I have a single definition too. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Energy. This is typical me. I'm here to speak about, higher self and self-love and light language, and I always manage to switch it into human design of gene keys.
Yeah, I feel like human design is a really beautiful modality to understand this at a deep level, but it's just one of many. It's very, very accurate. I've really enjoyed discovering my chart, but it's just like, I think you made a really good point the other day. How does human design relate to our starseed origins? And I feel it does. It definitely is all like, I feel like all these systems, whether it's I Ching or whether it's astrology or whether it's all channeling energy from the quantum field, just through different systems. But generally they all speak about the different aspects, but it comes from one source.
Yeah, it does. Everything is the same. And yeah, I believe, as I say, it's just different kind of frequencies that will speak to different parts, like depending on what we're here to do. But really, everything is the same. And really, also, I believe any kind of box or label, we're here to also transcend and let go of.
Absolutely.
Including boxes like Starseeds and etc. For me, it's super useful tools for us in order to understand what kind of energetic blueprint we have, so that we can get more in contact with exactly our blueprint. But I do believe that we're meant to, like, we are everything. I believe in oneness. So I also believe that if we to get too much into these boxes, they will actually also box us in.
Yeah, yeah. I see that a lot with Starseeds. People are like, yeah, I'm Arcturian, I'm Pleiadian, but in fact, your soul, if you actually like have a proper Starseed reading, you'll see that your soul might have journeyed through like 900 lifetimes, and you've been so many different things. You played so many different roles, and it's not just with the Starseed stuff. It's also here on Earth. We've played so many different roles. And it gets us back to that unity and that non-judgment and that self-love, because when you see your soul in its full context, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, past lives where you were a right monster. I've been a right monster in some of my past lives, like horrible stuff. And horrible from this perspective, but on that lifetime, that was my role to play, and I've played it. And then in other lifetimes, I've been really oppressed, and I've had a lot of trauma from those lifetimes. And when you actually, I feel like this process of connecting to your higher self and that self-love also includes all of that, where you stop judging yourself for something you've done maybe in this lifetime, maybe something you've done in a past lifetime. And then you also naturally start having more compassion for others and less judgment, because you see like, well, I played that role before, and I played that role before, and I've played that role before.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to bring back to what you were talking about, self-love, which I totally align with, is that really self-love is about self-acceptance. It's about finding compassion for all of us, like all parts of us. And that's something how through light language, I got like a really good connection with my higher self. And every time then I would step into my higher self, I just would have this deep compassion for everything. And what I also feel connected to when I'm in my higher self is this kind of feeling of how everything is an illusion. That's actually how I can say it. Like everything is an illusion, yet everything is real, because we create, when we are thinking, when we believe it, we are manifesting it. And we are so many million souls that are manifesting. So at the same time, it's not like we can just say everything is illusion, because everything is also real.
Wow, that's very profound what you're saying, but profound and true. And sometimes, when we have these insights, when we have these quantum windows to the nature of reality, it's difficult to even express it in human words and say like, okay, everything is illusion, but everything is real. Like, oh, how do I get that? Or it's just that higher perspective. But also, I think all of these experiences that we have show us that this is just maybe not an illusion, but it's just a window. It's just a perspective. And there's many windows in this building. And you're looking with that one, you've got a fixed perspective, but that's not the only view from this building. There's many different views and many different windows. And depending which one you look through, you'll have a different perspective. So, and it then brings us back to that self-compassion. And I feel like you made a really good distinguishment between self-care and self-love, because I feel that in the popular culture, in the mainstream, people mistake these two things. They think that self-love is self-care. So self-love means, okay, I'm gonna go have my nails done or have a massage, which is great to have those pleasures and beautiful experiences. I love them. I do all of that, but it's not the same as self-love, because self-love goes so much deeper. And then another aspect of that self-love is also where you love yourself deeply. It's actually not selfish act. It's the most selfless act, because when you have this reverence for your human experience and non-human experience, you also begin having more reverence, respect, and love for other people's experiences. And that's when we get into that non-judgment unity consciousness, which is something that we haven't really known on this planet for many, many, many thousands of years.
And I don't think that technically we are gonna, as a human race, experience that in its pure aspect. I think it's in the distance, it's like it's coming, And we are an important piece. Everyone who's doing conscious work, I believe, is a crucial piece of co-creating. But I think also it's important to also kind of let ourselves off the hook, which is for me then a lived acceptance, is that in this lifetime, in this human reincarnation, we're just going to do as good as we can. Meaning we're not going to be finished. We're not going to be perfect. We're not going to reach any kind of level where we do not have judgment. Because, and the reason why I'm saying that is actually coming back to oneness again. Because as long as we believe in oneness, as long as there are any souls on earth that doesn't accept themselves and isn't in that vibration, everyone will also in some level be in that vibration.
But I feel like it does have a bit of a like a upward or downward spiral effect, and I feel like we are in this upward spiral, that the more of us actually release the trauma, the less we've got judgments, we are progressing as a planet. I know that we can look at how how much cruelty there is, and still there's how much judgment there is, and we can be like, my God, we've got such a far way to go, we're not ascending here, are we doing something wrong? But if you look, let's say 1,000 years back, in your country there were Vikings at the time, and look how cruel like that life was in those times, where it was like the Game of Thrones and different things, and we think that we are not ascending, but we have already gone a far way with compassion. Look back another, 3,000 years, let's say before Jesus, and I'm not looking at Christianity from a religion perspective, but it has brought a change of mindset of the collective, because before that time, compassion and love were not values, they were weaknesses. So I don't know, in the ancient Roman society, love was not it wasn't a value, to be compassionate, to forgiveness. That's something that came with like Jesus's message, and that was another shift in consciousness, and we now experiencing another. But what you made a great point in let ourselves off the hook, because we're still here for the human experience. And I think that is the difference between the journey we're taking right now as awakened beings to the journey that many religious traditions took us from. Because the journey of many religious traditions is almost like escaping from our body, escaping from this human experience, like we're going somewhere up to heaven, etc., etc. But actually, no, we're here to feel it all in our body. We're here to embody that. The human experience it's just super important. It's like a part of the whole thing.
It is, and I believe actually it's the same in spirituality. I think majority of spiritualities also have been really also a mirror of the current world in also religion and in the non-spiritual world or non-religious, in terms of focus on actually transcending the body and transcending emotions. It's all about sitting quietly, meditating for hours or everything, and really just suppressing the human that we're here to be. And I believe very much we're expanding our consciousness on Earth. I would say that actually just looking back 6 months ago, 2 years ago, and 5 years ago, and 10 years ago, we're seeing huge leaps. And for instance, you can say, science is starting actually to catch up with spirituality. Now we're starting to have lots of research that's showing how much, for instance, meditation and psychedelic and etc., how much it actually can support our human. But also if you look at how many people are, I'm going to do like this, awaken. When it comes to depending on what year you are, because I know I'm 43 and I see it's not that many that is, if you compare to how many who is into spirituality that's 10 years younger than me, I don't know, it's so many compared. It's that it, particularly when you look at, for instance, who I'm following and have as friends on Facebook, they're like the 30s. Most of them are in their 30s, and it's not that many who are in their 40s, and even less that's in their 50s, and even less than in their 60s. So I completely see how things are rapidly changing. And I also say that when it comes to when I was starting out with doing meditations 5 years ago, people would look at me like I was just told I just did the sacrifice of a sheep. They would look at me, like that. And now majority people are curious or interested or think that, oh, meditation or yoga or, you know, and yoga just a few years ago, people thought, again, was like you're worshiping the devil. So I do think there is coming big leaps, but when we're in the middle of it, it can absolutely seem like we're standing still sometimes, because my experience is the deeper I go inside of myself, the more shadows I see of myself, but also the contrast of how it is inside of me gets even bigger to how it is in the world.
Oh yeah, you're just becoming more sensitive.
Yes, and I would say that's why it's important to have a good connection to your higher self. I've had such a huge calling. The past two months, I've been going really deep into my human, meaning that I've been basically focused on just being a human with emotions and feelings, and I've been letting myself feel deeply. And now the calling has been the 2 past weeks is that, okay, great, Marte, you did a fantastic work. You know, it's been really great. Now, you know, getting back to that divine self on a daily basis again. In my going deep into my humanness, I kind of let go a little bit of my tools, and I was more focused on, again, just feeling. And it's been really a huge, beautiful reminder that, okay, ground back. It's beautiful to ground in your human, but also ground in your divine self. Remember that you are not alone. You are divinely included. And I feel like you're
I feel like this is part of this work is that integration. And I remember what you were saying about the human and divine. I've had this kind of like download of understanding that we are here to be like a divine human. So both, we are divine and human. We the divine human. And I feel like it's very easy to go one way or the other, because we love contrast on this planet. We love polarity, and like say, oh, either I'm in my emotions or either I'm in my high vibes. And I think actually understanding that certain emotions, it's not like feeling real emotions is not low vibrational. You can feel rage. You can feel grief. Do you think that in a new earth there won't be people dying, or there won't be any tragic accidents, that loved ones will be lost? Of course there will be. Even though our consciousness will be expanded, we'll still experience feelings of loss or grief or anger. And I feel like this is such an important message for the spiritual community, that it's not high vibes only, and that unity consciousness doesn't mean that we all the same and believe in the same thing, and also it doesn't mean that we are just high vibes only, and that we need to shake off when we feel, let's say, grief. It's such an unspoken subject in this community, that people just like, hey, you know, I'm creating my own reality, so there's no place for things. And then there is still death in this world. There is still loss. There is still you know, things that even happen not even to us but around us. And we still will relate to it, because we're all interconnected and interrelated. So I feel like it's super important to allow ourselves, and don't create more judgment, and don't create more, like, you know, bashing ourselves for, oh my god, I'm feeling low vibration because I'm feeling sadness. It's you would lose your humanity if you lose your sadness. You lose your humanity when you lose your ability to experience anger or rage. It's just being able to, like you say, bounce back after it, and however long it takes. And also not judge yourself for, I am feeling like I'm feeling. I'm still human. Yes, I'm divine. Yes, I'm God incarnate in this body, but I'm still human. And you know, like I again, I don't know why I'm making those references to Jesus, even though I'm not really subscribing to any religion, but there was, he had the power. He was the divine human, one of the ascended masters, but he was still crying with people who were crying, and he was still having fun with people who were having fun. And and he's a great example. And I think we can have that balance. It doesn't, and very often we subscribe to certain ideologies. The world is energetic, but we don't have to be like spiritual. Spiritual doesn't have to mean that we eat certain things or we avoid certain things.
Yeah.
We can have it. We can have everything in that experience.
Exactly. And I believe everything is divine. I believe every emotion and every instinct and everything is divine. And it's about if it's coming out from the shadow frequency or the gift frequency. And when now I feel this all the time, but even more when I'm in a higher self, I don't think about emotions as high or low frequency. I don't think about emotions as bad or good. And this is luckily starting to be more and more also in my life, that I'm not judging in my emotions. Like I'm less judging them and just allowing them. And what I'm then noticing more and more, and this is something I'm guiding, so I'm just going to briefly share. For me, for instance, an emotion is a pure bodily sensation. It means that my body gets activated with energy. And that is a pure emotional bodily sensation. And then we have the thoughts that can happen from the bodily emotions. But it is, again, actually possible to just have a pure bodily emotion without having thoughts. And then and again, it's also then the actions or the reaction that's coming from the bodily reaction or the thoughts about the bodily reaction. And so, for instance, I'm experiencing being filled with rage, but I'm totally calm. And experiencing where it took me some seconds to understand, like, what's happening in my body, what is what I would normally label as anger. And someone was at that moment speaking to me, unrelated to what was happening in my body. It was simply an activation. And that's something that is accessible more and more for us, is to hold all this energy within. And I would also then say that when we're speaking of, I think there's a huge misconception when it comes to high and low frequency when it comes to emotions, because I believe that just like we are everything, every energy is also everything. Meaning that when energy is entering us, it's coming in from 0 to 1,000, if we think about the scale of consciousness. Meaning that that frequency range have everything in it. But if we have blocks in certain emotions, which we all have, depending on our family, depending on culture, depending on lots of like environment, we will have certain blocks that, that emotion isn't allowed. And for instance, in Norway, there's even kind of blocks when it comes to how much happiness you can like express. And I think that's in particular in Europe, but even more in the Scandinavian.
Yeah, Europe, Eastern Europe is not maybe quite as Northern Europe and as Scandinavia, but it's very similar. In Poland, we don't say like if you walk to a subway or like metro in Warsaw and you smile and you look people in the eyes, they will be like, "You're stupid."
They're crazy, or they're looking at you, and people think, for instance, sometimes I'm drunk because I'm happy, because I'm happy. And a lot of people actually sadly also have to drink in order to feel happiness or laugh, etc. So, but anyway, so the point is, again, I believe that energy is coming into us, and then it has this whole frequency width. And then where we are having blocks is where it will kind of stop. So instead of the whole frequency just coming in from 0 to 1,000 and just out again, it will stop and it will create a block there. And then every time it gets stopped, this block gets bigger and bigger. And that's why, for instance, one then can explode with certain things, because it is build up. It's like the drop that's spilling over, because we can't only hold a certain amount of energy in this vessel in our bodies.
I think that's a great point, because another thing that's kind of related to it is that sometimes when it comes to energy, we're not operating on pure energy, we're operating on recycled energy. And let me explain what it means, because obviously by design, the way our chakra system is is built, we meant to receive energy from cosmos, and we meant to receive energy from the earth. However, these channels, for many of us, have been blocked for generations and for decades. So the crown chakra is blocked by various religious rituals. Our third eye is blocked by fluoride and our diet. Our bottom chakras, like the root and the sexual chakras, are blocked by various traumas, shame, and all of that. What happens in effect, and also this physical things, like my husband's lately, he before like his spiritual awakening, like way before, he trained as an electrician, and one of the things he pointed out is, why do we always have rubber soles of the shoes? Why is it rubber? Well, he said, he's like, well, when I was an electrician, rubber mats was something we stood for to not be grounded, to like, if there's, to lose that connection to the earth. So almost by design, we're losing that connection to Gaia, we're losing that connection to cosmos. The whole society is designed around that. So those two pure streams of energy that are meant to nourish us, that are meant to feed us, that are meant to give us like this fresh, it's almost like the wave of fresh air, like having windows opened, and there's this draft coming from this beautiful fresh air. What we are in this planet, when we're not plugged into those two energies, we're recycling each other's energies. We're projecting it through various chakras, and it's almost like breathing like some smelly air that everybody's been breathing in and out, and it's not kind of having this freshness. And when we actually awaken, when we clear those channels, then we can really project fresh our own emotions to the world, and also learn not to take other people's into our system, because then we don't need to take other people's emotions, we don't need to take other people's projections, because we are powered by source energy from the cosmos and from Gaia. But that takes some practice, because we are not used to running on this clean energy. It's like, you know, running on some kind of bad fuel, and all of a sudden you've got this clear fuel. It's like, oh, the system doesn't know what to do with it.
Yes, because we are trained to believe that we can think ourselves out of situations. If I hope like that is what I'm hearing. Well, like when you're speaking, is that for me, what you're describing, for me, I call it remove the inner echo, meaning that that's again what shadow work is. Like, I'm taking responsibility. Since I am everything, I am taking responsibility for my part, meaning that if I get triggered, if I'm projecting, I have the unique opportunity to own that part of me. And when I'm owning that part, that's what I'm now seeing as you're describing, as instead of just going on the recycled energy, I'm rather sourcing my energy from my own kind of field.
Yes.
Instead of that, is the echo will create this kind of vibration. So then it becomes more the straight up and down.
Absolutely. It's just, that's the first step, I feel. The responsibility, and this is something that we don't like, responsibility, and we've been conditioned away from responsibility in the society. You know, give responsibility to our teachers, parents, the government, or whatever. You know, I don't want to talk too much about that because they will ban us from Facebook. But you know, sovereignty is something that we're very not used to, and energetic sovereignty is an aspect of it, because there can be sovereignty of thinking and sovereignty of, like, you know, that, but it's also that energetic sovereignty where we're running on this clear fuel, taking clean inspiration. And actually all of that, those emotions, those decisions, it boils down to not whether they're right or wrong, high vibe or low vibe. It's just, are they our emotions? Are they coming from us? Are we doing these actions and emotions because someone tells us this is the right thing to do?
Yeah. And as you were sharing that, I was feeling the thread back to light language. Is the light language always good?
Okay, good question. I've got a few interesting observations about that, because first of all, we call it light language. It is just a language, but it's just energy. And of course, in the quantum multiverse, exists all sorts of potentials and all sorts of galactic races. So, there are Arcturians, but there's reptilians, there is Pleiadians, and there's like Zetas and other, or Draconians, other beings. And I have the ability to channel the bad so-called languages, or let's say the ones that are races that serve themselves rather than in service to others. I have this ability. When you open your channel, if you can channel Arcturian, you can probably channel Reptilian. And it's all within your realm. It's all within possibility. So I wouldn't say that all light language is good. And there's another point different to it, is that you can also, when you're channeling the language of your soul, it can sometimes come for a particular purpose, and you can express the unexpressed. I've had a beautiful activation where I've witnessed one of my clients in an individual session activated her soul language. It was just the first time I've witnessed that. And how it started was she started making these sounds that sounded really unpleasant on the ear. It was like she wanted to release something. It sounded really not nice. And I'm like, okay, I know this is your soul language. I need to allow it. I'm just here holding space. I'm not going to judge. And she started releasing, and it was all the blocks to expression. She was a mature woman who was being kind of never be able to speak her truth and speak her mind and please her family. And the more she was doing it, at the end, the same language morphed into totally different sound. It was harmonic. It sounded like some Asian musical scale, like instruments. It just was divine. And it was the same language, just morphed. So I feel like, again, with light language is having discernment. And of course, we don't want to be channeling and perpetuating negative energy. You need to know who you're connecting to if it's an external language. But when it's your soul language, I feel like everything is allowed. Everything is here for healing and for transformation.
But how do a person know if it's a good energy or not?
Okay, so I feel like it's getting to know who you're connecting with and feeling, how does it make you feel? So discerning between various energies. So soul language aside, because soul language of your soul is always good, is always from you, but from external energies, such as the energies of galactic races, you just need to know the calling cards. You just need to get to know the energetic signature, and then you will never be able to make a mistake. For me, those energies are so familiar that I know exactly what I'm channeling, and I know which energy is good for what. But I feel like that is exactly where a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty comes around light language, because there's a lot of misunderstandings. People just channel. They don't know what they channel. They don't know what it means. And this is part of my work here, is to bring a bit more consciousness. And actually, for me, channeling particular energy, whether it's Arcturian or Pleiadian or Syrian, a part of it is getting to know those beings, actually sitting with them, building relationships. So I know I can trust them. I know what they're about. I know what the essence is. I know how they're here to assist our humanity. And I feel like one of the very important aspects before you open your channel up is to actually know who you're connecting to, and also shield yourself and have a bit of intelligence. And also don't, because you can get carried away by enthusiasm. It's like, wow, I can channel, it's amazing. But okay, you need to know what you channel. You need to bring some precision to what you're tuning into, because after all, your receiving antenna, your third eye, your mouth, your ears, is like a radio station. And you need to decide which station you tune your receiver into. Could be station Arcturian, could be station Reptilian,
Yeah, I can relate, because, for instance, light language do come to me, and it can be activated by others. But for me, it's not something I'm using with clients or other people. And I'm also really careful with my own energy when it's coming out. And that's also why I keep sending people to you. When I notice that there's light language or curiosity, or when it's coming up, because sometimes I will know that this person light language. Like I can know that it's there, but I
Mm-hmm.
know it's not my purpose to activate it.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand. Like when light language is coming to me, I notice things are happening in my body. So I can feel if it's a good or bad thing for my body,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't translate. And it's, for me, it feels like it's beyond my ego and it's just straight to my body.
It does happen like that very often, where you don't need to always have the translation, but you can. So it depends whether you want. I think it's always important to have the option and to always know. And I feel like what I'm going to link up in the comments, and when you put it on the YouTube channel, we do the same. There is a free resource that I prepared, which is a light language library, which has samples of 13 different languages, not just spoken by my voice, but also my students' voices. So it's like, because it will always vary slightly through our human body, you know, expressing those cosmic energies. So maybe we're going to link up to that. So for those of you who are interested what different light languages sound like, there's also like a free class which explains a bit more about mechanics. Maybe that's a good resource that I've created it for the community, because I was getting a lot of questions like that. It's like, oh, I'm channeling light language. What am I channeling? I'm like, yeah. And so I can't give everybody my personal feedback. I reserve it to my students from the light language course and from my membership. But I've created this like library so everybody can listen. Okay, maybe I sound like that, or maybe I sound like that, or maybe it's that. That's Pleiadian. That's Orion, or whatever.
Yeah. No, I'm super excited about the library. I've been telling to lots of people about it. So
yeah. Need to actually update it, because there's more languages coming both through me and through my students. It's like it's going to be like a growing project. So yeah.
And one question I have is that, well, I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty connected to the feline Lyrians. And I do wonder, I see for a lot of people like me, I see a black puma being like a regular or panther. And could our like inner animals be connected? Do you think they can also be like a visual of a starseed connection?
I'm not sure about inner or spirit animals. I never thought about it this way, but what I know is that the black pumas, I know them. I know them. They are the fierce, protective side of the feline society. They're almost like for protection. So if that's how they come for your protection, and they will and what is very interesting when you mention about feline Lyrans, a lot of what I've noticed is the Lyran feline frequency is very feminine but very fierce frequency. And I've noticed that a lot of my students who have activated Lyran feline have that connection. They also very often doing this embodiment, beauty, feminine, you know, all this kind of like pussy priestess type of expression. That very often comes from feline energy. I don't know what it is, but very often there's that connection. And another side of things, many feline starseeds also teach about abundance, wealth, because the felines have this beautiful frequency of actually appreciating the physical. For them, they can appreciate it, but they're not so attached. And it's so beautiful in terms of body, expression, money, all sorts of things, that they kind of have this really cool perspective. But when it comes to that black puma or panther or whatever, I know what you mean, because I see them as well. These are the protective side of Lyran felines. They don't all look like that, but there's some that look like that. Some of them have more humanoid cat-like features, whereas those black pumas, they're 100% for protection. So if you ever need, you know, to protect your energy, or if you're under attack, any sort of attack, could be verbal attack, could be spiritual attack, call on those energies, and they will come to your kind of help. I feel like there may be a connection between the spirit animals and the felines and other kind of starseeds, because I've seen that, for example, there's definitely a connection between the Lyran felines and the Mayan civilization, and they worship the jaguar a lot, etc. So there's definitely something there.
Yeah. No, it's I have also remembrance back to both Maya and Aztec, and it's and as you were speaking now, like I was feeling literally claws coming out. So very, very first kind of that energy is very strong in me, and it's absolutely a protector energy. And the challenge is though is to also balance that so it doesn't get aggressive, because it is extremely fierce. And that's also been a journey. And I also noticed that this energy is also scared of humans in a lot of ways. So parts of me is deeply scared and skeptical towards humans. And I 100% that connected also to that energy. I don't know if
that's you know what's interesting you say that, because when we, so with the felines it was a slightly different journey for me than with other races, because the language activated before I met them. So my feline language activated, and then myself and Aaron were pursuing that thread, that sound, that energy. It's like, where does that come from? Well, it led us to this feline planet. And I have really good relationship with them. My husband, first when he got there, they were like, why are you connecting with us? What do you want from us? Tell us why are you even here? And it was like they were a bit standoffish. They didn't want to connect. But then what happens with them is they always come. You can't instruct them. They always come unexpected. And it's like they come when they come. And it's very similar with dragon energy. And I know you work with dragons as well. That dragon energy also has this kind of double-edged sword, because you say we're very protective, but it can be even more aggressive, more fiery and things like that. So yeah, it's like,
it's been a lot of dragons the past 8 months. And it's also, as I'm saying that, I'm also aware that I'm posting this on my public Facebook page, and I just want to speak into that. If anyone is watching and this sounds crazy, I completely understand, because this would have been up until a few years ago, even just 1 year ago, certain things that's so normal in my life. It used to be crazy. It used to be nonsense. And that's also something like a beautiful kind of warning, is that when you do start to connect to your higher self, your life starts to be pretty darn beautiful, magical.
Yeah, it's just different. Like if someone told me, 3 years ago that I'll be speaking to extraterrestrials, I'll be like, oh yeah, righto. I wouldn't believe that. Even though for 15 years I was speaking extraterrestrial language, the Arcturian, but I didn't know it was Arcturian. And I think that it all kind of I think it's just, again, we have to sometimes shake off a little bit of the collective programming, because if we think, because we always think of extraterrestrials as some kind of physical beings, but they're non-physical beings. We have more acceptance for angels maybe and kind of that kind of stuff, but there's no difference really. They're still non-physical beings, many of them, that just happen not to be of this earth. And when you expand your connection to your higher self, when you open yourself up to your multidimensional expression, then you'll notice, okay, well, there is actually more to this whole universe than our little planet.
Absolutely. And it's how many 100 billion planets, or no, like elements or something in just our galaxy. And then I get confused. I'm getting my numbers wrong, because it's even more bigger than I just said.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me, people that believe that Earth is kind of the only thing that has life on it. It's a little bit like, okay, seriously, like, do you know how big Earth is?
Yeah, like I always say, go out at night, look at the stars, and just ask yourself like a question: do you really think we're all alone in this big universe? And this is just what you see. How much bigger is the part of the universe that you don't see? So I kind of feel like, we are here a little bit early on the awakening curve, but it's the same way as mentioned, years ago, meditation was something weird. And now it's mainstream. People have meditation at work, even, like, big corporations are introducing meditation, mindfulness, all of that is like, if you said mindfulness 15 years ago in a corporate environment, it would be like, what?
You would lose your job.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's the same, you know, it's one of the things that never ceases to amaze me when you look at human history, is
Mm.
that people keep coming up with this new kind of, um, uh, what's the word? Okay, I'm just going to give some examples. You know, the sun isn't revolving around Earth. It's the
Yeah.
opposite way. We have to behead you, you know.
Yeah.
It's all these things that keeps happening in the history of humanity, that people are resistant towards something that's new.
Hmm.
And it's a little bit of, I don't know, that's why also seeing why I believe why consciousness are finally expanding on a bigger level is that, as I just said at the beginning, like science is starting to catch up with spirituality in a lot of ways, you know,
Yeah.
because
You know,
yeah.
the fact that we're even having this conversation and we can speak openly, that is
Mm.
also, you know, if we had that conversation maybe 100 years ago, we would probably be admitted to like a mental hospital
Well,
because we're talking.
I've been burned and mutilated so
Yes.
many times, exactly because stepping out into my power. And that's also why I think it's so hard for people to step into their power. And I think that is also 100% connected to what you're speaking about when it comes to business, when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to being, you know, a healer or a coach or a mentor and working in this realm, is because we do have so many blocks in our bodies exactly because of all the persecutions and
Mm-hmm.
torture and all that horrible thing, because it is all stored in our bodies. Like part of our bodies and parts of our ego too will remember that this is really dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
even today, people are experiencing horrible things
Of course.
because they're stepping out into their power.
Yeah, I've had a situation a few weeks ago where one of my posts went really viral. It was about energy programmed into guided meditation, and it got so many shares. I think it had about 500 shares that sadly it went in front of the non-correct audience, and someone shared it into a group of atheists, people who are really kind of, you know, anti anything that's not proven and research, etc. And even though I'm not claiming that my experiences are science, I'm only sharing my experiences. I've had like, and the group was like 100,000 people, and I've had all these trolls, just literally laughing faces, just like, goodness me, comments, comments, comments. I had to take that post down because it was just so much negativity. So that can happen by all means, and it's just like, you know, I'm not there on an atheist group saying you're stupid and, you know, you close-minded people open yourself up to the multiverse and the world beyond physical. I respect the space, but unfortunately they're in a different consciousness. They feel like I'm dangerous because I'm saying things that go against what we know as science. And I respect science. I just feel like science, like you say, is only just catching up with the energy.
But
Yeah.
humanity hasn't really caught up yet. That's the thing,
Yeah.
and that's I'm feeling like we're in such a huge important part of well, humanity is now. I feel like we're so many people now that we're starting to be able to create a huge jump that's very much
Mm-hmm.
needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's connected to how we have been recycling so much of the energy. There's a beautiful way of experience of saying it. Because again, going back to seeing how all these great thinkers to artists to anything who's been kind of advanced for their age, you know, even things like getting voting rights for everyone, you know, it was actually opposed. Like people get jailed and killed and murdered and mutilated and threatened for things that are not we take for granted. So it's sadly part of that kind of, I think it's like a little bit of the backlash of the human, of the animal human that we are, because we are animals still. And it's that group mentality of anything that's new is dangerous.
It's not safe. Yeah, it's not safe.
But that's the beauty of now that we are getting a world where exactly because the positive things, for instance, about social media and that current technology is that we can create community across different parts of the world, like me and you are talking now. So it's also, even though it has a lot of backdrops, I believe in bigger picture, it will enable humanity to also step forward, because we can again create more connection between each other too, and we're getting to experience different parts of Earth. Because before, like I grew up and we didn't have internet. Internet came when I was a teenager. So in my childhood and my young adult years, but not like internet was starting to be, but it's not like now.
And thank goodness, because we could still do all the silly things without it being plastered all over social media.
Yeah, but the thing is that, but the backdrop of that is that I didn't have the same amount of possibilities that the younger ones have now. You know, I was much more dependent on the local environment up until I moved away. It was very local, and it was very national too. So when you do start to have technology, you like, for instance, my daughter, she's 9.5 years old. She gets to experience different cultures, and even more because she's half Mexican. So, you know, she doesn't get formed, she doesn't get set in the same way as if you're growing up like me in a small town in Norway, where people, you know, like a lot of people just stay in this little place their whole lives, and they don't get the same kind of input of energy that is very much recycling. But at the same time, they can still, you know, log on to internet and get a lot of impressions. So you can't really stay in the same loop as you could, like 50 years ago. So even if you want it or not, you actually are forced into expansion.
Yeah, we all accelerating. Everything is just getting quicker and quicker and quicker. So and that's amazing for humanity. Is, you know, our consciousness expansion ascension is a done deal. It's happening. It's already happening. It's just we just need to actually see it as a bigger picture, because sometimes we're like, oh, so much more. Oh, we're not there yet. It's like, you know, like sometimes we behave like a child that's going on a trip and on a back seat, and Mom, Dad, are we there yet? No, not yet. Okay, but are we there yet? Well, come on, enjoy the journey.
Yeah, but I believe that also have compassion for that part. You know, have compassion for that human that find it terrifying, that because our human self is very much more preoccupied with having enough food and warmth and connection here and now. And then I see the soul piece is the one who's driving and like is looking for the big picture and is here on fire. At least mine is, all the dragon and the fly inside of me is so in fire of wanting to co-create something new. And that part of, for me, kind of the human experience is to have these very different aspects of myself, kind of, and having them be more merged and get more in a union, so that, you know, my soul isn't just walking all over my human, but also my human isn't just sabotaging my soul. Is how can I get them to work more and more together?
Beautiful.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's all about balance and integration. I think that's been the predominant theme of this whole conversation. So really, really, really happy to share that. And I believe that, you know, it's not just a conversation that we're having. There's some energy exchange here, and there's some activation happening beyond the words. And I hope that if you're, you know, listening or watching it, you will feel it, and maybe it will expand you in a way that you start questioning certain things or looking at other things from a new perspective.
Beautiful. Well, I feel like we're getting a circle here, so I feel like rounding up, and I am going to say a few words, and I'm going to leave you to end it. And what I feel like saying is that, like, in the core of both of our messages is really connection to higher self and self-love. And we have the same but different perspectives and ways of doing it. And if anyone has any questions or reflections, who want to share your own experiences, etc., who's watching here, we would love it if you drop your comments or something in underneath here. And we will also drop our connection to Instagram. So you're also welcome to connect with us here and there. And both of us guide in both groups and one-to-one sessions. And I know I'm offering a free intro session to anyone who is curious. So I'm going to drop that underneath too. And I just want to say how much I love this conversation. So thank you, Riya. I'm going to leave you to round up and end this live.
Okay, thank you so much, Marte, for creating this beautiful space, like a temple where I could enter and share my essence, share my medicine. Feel free to connect with me on any social media. You know, you can follow whatever link is below. I'll drop the link to my free light language library for those of you who are curious in that side of things, but I also do more stuff which are more business related if there's any entrepreneurs listening to this as well. But yeah, feel free to get connected, and it was an absolute pleasure to share from the heart in this free flowing way, which, you know, I wouldn't expect anything less from a white flower. So it was very, very flowy, very feminine, beautiful conversation, and it's been an absolute pleasure just spending this time with you. Thank you so much for co-creating it.
Love everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.